That was the message that we got from the diet heart hypothesis, where it told us if we eat fat, we get fat. And when we look at a ton of meta-analyses and the research out there, it just isn't the case. So you can go ahead and enjoy red meat and your butter, and you'll probably find that you're more satiated and love what you do and what you eat.
Welcome to the Dr. Ashley Show.
Welcome to the Dr. Ashley Show. I'm Dr. Ashley, and today I've got Lisa in the studio with me. She's one of our PhD consultants and team leaders, and today we are together to answer your questions that you guys have left on the carnivore diet. So let's dive in.
First one, has anyone had their cholesterol go up due to eating the carnivore diet?
Yeah, so I did a great episode with Dr. Ken Berry, who follows and preaches the carnivore diet. And I asked him this exact question. I said, at PhD, we're not the carnivore diet, but we're, help people reduce the junk carbs and sugars in their diet. But a few clients will experience an elevated cholesterol level. And I have known a lot of people on the carnivore diet and have researched it. And they show that some groups of the population do show increases in cholesterol. So what happens is about 20% of people following a low carbohydrate diet may exhibit elevated cholesterol numbers. When we look at what the cholesterol numbers actually mean, our basic cholesterol really doesn't show us anything about our health. So we can pretty much cross that off the lipid panel. And when we look at the other numbers like HDL and LDL and triglycerides, those are the numbers that actually matter. When we see elevated cholesterol in these 20% of people, we see that generally HDL goes up, LDL goes down, and the triglycerides, which really impacts heart health, drop down significantly. In 20% of the people that we're talking about, though, they see HDL go up, they see triglycerides drop down, but their LDL goes up. And LDL has been termed as the bad cholesterol. Well, now there's a lot of research out there showing that there's different types of LDL. There are light, fluffy, and buoyant LDL, which seem to not be as strongly associated with poor heart health. And then there's small, dense, irritable LDL, and those are the bad type of LDL. Well, the patterns that we see in people following a low carbohydrate diet, if their LDL does go up, it's the light, fluffy, and buoyant type. And so it's not associated with increased risk of heart disease or stroke, cardiovascular disease. Now, there are some people out there who say that any type of LDL going up isn't great, and those are the folks who are recommended by a lot of even functional medicine practitioners to take a statin because they just don't like to see any LDL go up. I find that an important thing to consider is that when we are dropping weight, we are burning through the fat in our body, and that is released into the body, and sometimes for these 20% of people, elevate LDL. And so it's actually a transient increase in this LDL and cholesterol. And for most people, once they drop the weight and maintain it for about 6 to 12 months, then that elevation actually drops back down. For those people where it doesn't drop back down after a year of maintaining this weight loss, then there are a few things. If you still are concerned with high LDL, you could take a statin and maintain your healthy lifestyle because you know that it's improved every other marker and has allowed for you to reverse type 2 diabetes or prediabetes and high blood pressure and sleep apnea so that you know it's working for the body, but you aren't comfortable with the LDL. That's an option. I've seen people do that. Another option is you could say, okay, I'm sensitive to saturated fat in a way that I'm uncomfortable with, so you can follow a lower carbohydrate diet and just not eat a ton of saturated fat. So I would say those are my suggestions there if you are concerned with an elevated LDL. But most folks, I would say, they've seen the reversal of all these negative health conditions and the LDL seems to be light, fluffy, and buoyant. They just keep going along the path that seems to be improving their health.
I like it. All right, this one is an interesting one. Mm-hmm. Has anyone ever had problems with cold feet and hands after starting the carnivore diet?
I've heard people following the carnivore diet experience this, and one idea is that when the body's not yet efficient at burning fat for fuel, then we can have a shortfall in energy. And basically the body's just not fat adapted. It can't access that fat very efficiently. And so it pulls from the blood flow from the extremities, and we have cold hands and cold feet. I've heard from some of our PhD clients that after they drop weight, they feel like they need jackets. And so sometimes for some people, it's just getting used to not having as much fat padding around the body and not as much insulation. And a down jacket does just the trick. And then one thing to consider, though, if it's really just in the hands and the feet and you're concerned, you could go to your doctor. And I'd encourage you to just to look at your thyroid function, because that can be a symptom of hypothyroidism.
Okay, all things I've heard our clients talk about is that they need an extra jacket.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not a bad thing, right? All right, so this is another one, and they're in agreement with the carnivore diet, but they've noticed that their UNA blood results, their electrolyte levels, are high. How do they resolve that?
Yeah, I'd say that blood work is just a small picture of what's happening, and I would need a lot more information to be able to help support that. You know, how long have you been on the carnivore diet? What do you eat when you're on the carnivore diet? I know that's a silly question, but sometimes people are a little bit confused by exactly what and what not to eat. And then any kind of blood work that's been done right after a major change in diet is probably not going to be very accurate. Also, those results can be skewed if you've been sick, if you are sick, if you're dehydrated, if you've got high stress levels. So there are a lot of things outside of diet that can influence those blood markers.
This is a question we've heard multiple times. Does red meat, butter, etc. cause heart attacks?
If you really dive into the literature that's, not biased or funded by the grain or dairy or sugar industry, there is no literature to support that increased saturated fat leads to increased heart disease. That was the message that we got from the diet heart hypothesis, where it told us if we eat fat, we get fat. And when we look at a ton of meta-analyses and the research out there, it just isn't the case. So you can go ahead and enjoy red meat and your butter, and you'll probably find that you're more satiated and love what you do and what you eat. There is a subset of the population, I will say, genetically that is sensitive to saturated fat. It's not the majority, so if you are concerned, you could take a look at your genetic SNPs and see if you are that type of person where it would behoove you to reduce saturated fat.
All right, last question. If on a carnivore diet, how do you get all your vitamins and minerals? And is it possible to meet all your nutritional requirements on this type of diet?
You can get all of the vitamins and minerals, nutrition that you need from eating meat, but not just meat, it's the whole animal. So if you're just eating meat and not eating the organ meat, you might find that you're deficient a little bit in some of these important things. So if you are going on the carnivore diet, you want to make sure you're okay with eating organs. So liver specifically is something that's going to be giving you the vitamin A and copper and iron and all of those things that you need in the body. So yes, you can get it all from the carnivore diet, but you need to make sure you eat the whole animal. Thanks, you guys. Well, if you're listening to this from a podcast platform, please leave a review. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. And if you've got any more questions or comments, drop them below, and we will pull them and do another Q&A session to answer your questions. And I'll also answer all of your questions down in the comment section as well before that. Remember, you got to step up to make a change. Lead with your heart, train your mind, and do not negotiate with your body. See you next time.